Good morning, everyone. It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 4 live stream for the Sentry. Gonna break down props, DFS, some matchup for today's action to make sure you're ready to go out there, have yourself a solid end to the week, and hopefully enjoy some of the golf today, which should be absolutely fantastic. That leaderboard is stacked. It's going to make Showdown an interesting slate to break down. And on top of that, we've got a few outright bets live. We've got some props to take down today. Just a lot of things going on at once, and I'm really looking forward to it. So here in this live stream, any questions you've got, go ahead and let me know down in chat. But yeah, we got a lot to get into, and some NFL I'm playing this morning. So we're going to try and keep this stream to an exact hour time frame. So if you got any questions, feel free to go ahead and fire them. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We got Carl down there. What's going on? It says 2024, Florida's going to win all the money. Okay, I like it. Some good vibes here in 2024. And what's going on, Beat Boss? Hopefully you're having a solid Sunday morning out there. Saturday was pretty uneventful for me. Didn't go out or anything. Had quite a bit to do when it came to fantasy stuff. But the Steelers won. That was pretty sweet. Today, I'm the world's biggest Titans and Dolphins fan. And if the Jaguars end up losing, I'm probably not going to go to the game tonight. But there's a chance I might just go to that Dolphins game, especially if the Steelers season is on the line there. So we'll have to see. I'm able to get a ticket to that game if I want to. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. If Jordan Spieth or Xander Schauffele win the golf tournament, that would probably boost my chances of wanting to go to that game. So let's start talking about the conditions for round 3, which outside of the matchups but smashed yesterday, we also had a really good showdown day. Our props did not go well, and it's real easy to see why, right? The scoring average was 3 strokes harder here for round 3. And frankly, I did not expect that, right? The wind forecast didn't look all that bad to me. You could see up here in the morning, they said that they were like 4-6 mile an hour winds, which is just not true, right? Even these observed numbers are off. The winds were upwards of 20-25 miles an hour yesterday, and you saw that reflected with the scoring average, right? It was tough out there. A lot of the players, especially early on, were making doubles, sometimes even a triple or two out there in the front 9. And here for Sunday, it looks like the complete opposite, right? So not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but if we look at some of the wind forecast for the final round, it looks a lot more like what we got in rounds 1 and 2 than what we saw for round 3. So rather than dwelling on this scoring average, I would say we probably don't see that kind of thing again. Probably something between that 4 and 5 under par mark that we saw there for Thursday and Friday. So in terms of how that affects DFS, if we're going to get conditions that are this perfect, and just to show you a few of the other models, right? GFS down here also calling for pretty much no wind. This Icon model, same thing. Meteo Blue, only a little bit of wind later in the day. And then this NEM model, which has probably been the most severe this week, right? The one that was calling for the most wind Monday through Saturday, is actually calling for next to no wind here Sunday. So they're all in agreement, right? You got this data golf forecast over here. That's also going to call for relatively low winds. So that's probably what we expect here for the final round's action. And when we're playing DFS, right, if we're going to get a 5 under par scoring average, or at least like a 4 under par scoring average, placement points mean next to nothing, right? When you're only getting 12 points for first, when you have such a jumbled leaderboard, all of that chalk towards the top, I'd argue is going to be bad chalk today. So we're going to bring up the ownership. We're going to go through some of my plays, but the guys I'd prefer to take are some of the chasers, the ones that have to be aggressive, go out there and try and vault themselves at the leaderboard. Those are the sort of plays that are going to win you a showdown slate today. Not a Chris Kirk if he goes out there and shoots like 5 under par and wins, right? He might end up cracking some optimal lineups, but at the same time, you need those spike performances, right? You're looking for those 7, 8, sometimes even 9, 10 under par rounds that we have around Kapalua. I mean, if someone shoots 9, 10 under par, if Chris Kirk wins, right, and gets those 12 placement points, the guy who shoots 8 or 9 under is going to outscore him by like 10, sometimes even 20, 30 fantasy points, right? So, having winners matters. If you're playing in cash, smaller field stuff, maybe those chalky plays up top are a little bit more acceptable. But in large field GPPs, with this kind of weather forecast, we have, you're looking at trying to get a lot of guys going low. So with that being said, let's go through some of the top DFS plays that I like. And it's an interesting one. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of chalk that you have to navigate and plenty of chasers that I think have upside. So first off, I see we got Nick down there, Oss the boss. What's going on? Made it to the stream this time. That's sweet. I know you couldn't make it yesterday. You're probably working, right? But glad to have you there. And we got Nick down there too. Looking forward to the sweats today. Yeah, Nick's got a few sweats himself. So I'm rooting for you, buddy. Let's go out there. Let's take something down today. And I know we're on the same sweat on one of those. We won't jinx it, though. We won't talk about it. But yeah, that'd be a fun one. Do I play an underdog? Absolutely. I do some best ball stuff there, like some of the drafts, right? They do for round per round, but much more of the prop stuff for me in underdog. I'm a big pick'em player over there. I try and do a lot of their, birdie props, stroke props, all that. But trying to get a little bit more into the draft stuff. It's fun. I've seen a few other creators, right, starting to talk about it a little bit more. So maybe we'll get more contests, right? We'll get more excitement on those and get some better payout structures. I think that's the main thing for me, right? Is a lot of those golf drafts on an underdog are relatively small contests, right? We don't have a GPP-sized contest over there in underdog. So as more people start to play it, you might start to see those contests, which would make a big difference, at least for me. So let's talk through some of the players you might want to get to. And there's going to be two trains of thought, right? There are going to be some chalky players you want to take that you think are going to hold their position on a leaderboard, right? Go out there, perhaps finish in the top three. A Xander, Jordan Spieth for me are those exact kind of players. And then there's going to be the leverage plays you're getting to, right? Because when we get a Sunday Showdown slate, not only do you have the placement points to worry about, but ownership becomes incredibly polarized. And by polarized, I mean the higher owned players become extremely high owned on these kind of slates. And then your low owned players, right? The guys that maybe aren't playing as well, like an Aberg, for example, let's see, a Tom Kim right there at -7 are sub 5% owned, right? And at these kind of price tags, for a main slate, these players, would be at least 15, 20%, right? Aberg was chalk at nearly 25% ownership. Tom Kim was nearly a 20% owned player. Just because of those placement points, no one wants to take them. Right. And let me remind you, right, with a 4, maybe 5 under par scoring average, you're going to get a lot of these random players that just go off today. So if you're going to take some chalk up top, which I think you should, right, anytime you're playing a Sunday Showdown slate, it's the Abergs, right? It's the Tom Kims. There's a few other guys up here in the top end range that if you throw in just even one of them into a lineup, you're getting different right there. You're getting infinite leverage to the field. I mean, a 3% owned Aberg is going to be like absolute gold if he goes out there and has himself a day. And sure, their hit rates are lower, right? They're not playing as well as some of the other guys around him, but he's not 5 times less likely to get to a ceiling than a Terrell Hatton, right? He's not 8, 9 times less likely to get to a ceiling than a Jordan Spieth, for example. So, you want your guys up here up top that you think are going to perhaps win the golf tournament, but you should also be trying to take a few chasers to get you that differentiation. So, those are some of the plays up top I'm taking, right? Xander, Jordan Spieth, 2 players I'm really rooting for here on Sunday. And if I'm going to take pieces of chalk, right, I'm going to take the chalky pieces that I believed in going into the week, right? I know some people might self-hedge, right, try and actually fade the players that they're rooting for on a Sunday, but that's not me, right? I'm not the type of guy to try to go out there self-hedge, especially on a DFS format where they're taking like 15, 20% rake. It's just, it's not smart business, okay, right? If you're going to hit, you want to hit out there when you're playing DFS. You don't need to be self-hedging for every single slate. So that's my take up there, right? If Xander and Jordan Spieth go down with the ship today, they go down with the ship, right? That's what I put together, the game plan I put together for this entire week, and I'm going to stick by it. That's how I handle these Sunday Showdown slates. Doesn't mean you have to, right? But that is how I'm handling it. Somebody likes to hit Thigala, right? Relatively chalky, but another player that I'm hoping can hold his position. You're going to have to take shots on guys at the top, right? If you went full contrarian on this kind of slate, you would definitely be overdoing it because the placement points, while they're not the end all be all, they matter, right? There's going to be guys that are up there at like 17, 18 under par that have spiked performances, right? And if you don't have those spike performances that are also getting placement points, you're going to have a hard time winning the large field GPPs. So when you're putting together Sunday Showdown lineups, your cumulative ownership is definitely going to be higher, right, than what you have for other Showdown slates. It's definitely going to be higher than what you have for a main slate kind of contest. But as long as you're throwing in some of these like, micro-owned plays, right? That's where they really come in handy because your cumulative ownership's not really what you're worried about when it comes to duplicating leverage and all that. It is much more about your product ownership. And because the low-owned plays, right, are going to be extremely low-owned, they give you even more of that lower product ownership, right? They do a lot more for your lineup to change it up. So just make sure you have at least one in a lineup, right? One of these guys that's going to be sub 5, maybe like sub 6, 7% owned. And you're probably going to be good here for Sunday. So we talked about Sahith, Sam Burns at -14. This -14, 15, maybe even up to -16, I think is going to be a really useful range for leverage. You're not getting super low owned plays. I mean, like, look at this, right? Sam Burns, 13%. Brendan Todd is still there at 11.4%. But comparatively, right, compared to the guy at 19 under par, who's almost twice as owned, you're getting at least a slightly lower ownership number there. And they still have plenty of upside for placement points, right? If you get a ceiling performance today at something like, -14, -15, you're going to vault yourself up the leaderboard. So you might not win the golf tournament. You don't have to win the golf tournament, right, to get into the optimal. But if you're getting those top 5, those top 10 placement points, it's kind of what you're hoping for with these 7K options. Corey Connors, right? He's a little bit further behind, but I just like his upside to go out there and have a good round, right? When you have someone cheaper than they should be, like a Corey Connors, a lot of times you just bet on the talent level. So a little bit of a leverage play there too. Luke List, he's still getting about 12, 13% ownership, but comparatively, right? You got Harris English there at like 17%. You got Akshay Bhatia, who's nearly twice as owned. Like, I'd rather take a Luke List, right? List, higher birdie upside, a little bit more of a wide range of outcomes. And if he has a ceiling performance, right, and he makes maybe 2, maybe even 3 more birdies than these other 2 players, who cares if they finish in 3rd place, right? Luke List is going to be the guy you have to have because, and by the way, just so you know, it's over 5 points for every birdie that you're making. It's only 12 placement points for finishing in 1st place. Like, unless these guys finish in 1st, he makes 2 extra birdies, he's going to outscore them. So that's kind of the thought process that you have to think through. You got Adam Svensson down here, another relatively low-owned play I'm getting to. And also Eric Van Rooyen down there at sub 10%. All guys that, they're not extremely low-owned, right? They're not like 0.6% like you have here, the Vince Norman. I don't think you have to get that crazy for Sunday Showdown, but you shouldn't be playing all chalk, right? Like, there's not really a ton of chalk down here in the bottom end of the 6s. But like, if you're ending your lineups all with like a Patrick Rogers, or, God forbid you're ending every lineup with an Akshay Bhatia, unless you're going up here and you're taking an Aberg, Tom Kim, right, to force in that differentiation, you're going to have a tough time getting different to the field, right? And actually moving up the leaderboard when your guys hit. So that would be my recommendation here for Sunday Showdown, right? Is you've got to take a few pieces of chalk. You've got to mix in a few guys that are going to be lower owned and hope that you get the right spike performances. Let's see, any questions on specific players? You've lost the last 20 prop bets. You're still in, though, just a small money. I don't know how you've lost your last 20 prop bets, boss. You must not be tailing me then. We've not had a bad week at all, but that's tough. Let's go ahead and hopefully you can bounce back there because that's terrible. I've never lost 20 straight bets. That's almost impossible. Frankly, I don't know if I believe you. It's almost more impressive to lose 20 straight than to like win 20 straight. Like, it's legitimately hard to do that. And I'm not trying to be a dick about it. I literally don't believe you. Let's hop over to the DraftKings side, talk through some lineup construction stuff. It's a lot more important how you're putting together your lineups here for Sunday Showdown than who you're playing, right? So kind of like we just mentioned, you're going to have some guys that are garnering some ownership, but as long as you're mixing in, 1 or 2 of those plays to get different to the field, you're not going to have that much of a problem with it. So let me show you, for example, how you can make a chalky lineup work out. So let's throw in like a Xander. Let's throw in a Jordan Spieth up here. So we're not going to take like an Aberg or Tom Kim in this lineup. Let's go ahead and throw in a Sahith Theegala, right? So this start here, these 3 are pretty high ownership, right, between those 3 guys. And then down here in the 7K range, as we're going to have to start to get different, right? If you're not going to differentiate up there in the 8, 9, and 10K range, you're going to have to down here in the 7s. So rather than taking like a Brendan Todd, rather than going down here and taking some of the chalky guys like a Kirk, freaking Adam Schenk is even getting some ownership, and Akshay Bhatia, this is where you need to force in a guy who's like 8, maybe 9 under par. So a Keegan Bradley would be a great leverage play. Just to give you an idea, Keegan Bradley, I've got at 7.5% ownership right there. So that's probably not enough to get different, just with that one player alone. You're going to have to force in another sub 10% owned player. And an idea, right, would be Denny McCarthy, right? So let me check Denny McCarthy's ownership. McCarthy, I've got at 4.8% right now. So between somebody like a Keegan, right, between somebody like, Keegan Bradley and a Denny McCarthy, you've got I think it's 12% ownership between those 2 players right there. That helps you with those top 3 guys. If your last spot, if you're in a large field GPP, let's say you're in like the big $20 contest, for example, you might want to leave some salary on the table just because of these top 3 guys. If you're in like a single entry, if you're in a smaller field GPP even, right, with maybe just 1,000, 2,000 entries, you could probably spend all your salary here. So this is the kind of lineup you want to look for, right? You want your top end finishers that are going to pop for that ceiling. And then you want a few chasers, right, to try and get different to the field. Because with a 4 or 5 under par scoring average, guys, you're going to get some 80-point performances. I mean, you're going to get bogey-free rounds. You're going to get plenty of streaks out there on a day like today. And all of that could add up to just a crazy score for some of these guys chasing. So that's all for the GPP lineup construction. If you're playing cash for Sunday Showdown, and frankly, the only contests that I really play cash contests for are going to be for like the Sunday Showdown slates, right? When you have the placement points you can lock in. If I was playing cash, I would have Scotty Scheffler in every single lineup. There is no doubt about that. He is by far my favorite cash play, just the most consistent player that we have on the PGA Tour. I'd probably avoid guys like a Tom Kim and an Aberg, right? They're maybe not as motivated out here for this kind of thing. You want to keep it a lot more chalky. So let's see. Who would be my most consistent play in this 9K range? Not Jordan Spieth, right? He can be a little bit of a loose cannon from time to time. Maybe a Max Homa, right? Max Homa's gotten a lot more consistent. Not as much of a wild card like I was mentioning. So let's throw him in there. Down here in the 8K range, if you're looking for consistency, also some placement points, I think you could throw in like a Brian Harman, right? A very, I would say narrow range of outcomes type of player, right? He's not the type of guy that'll shoot like a 9-10 under par, but he's also not the type of guy that's going to shoot well over par. So let's throw those 3 in there. They're going to lock in some placement points too, which will be helpful. Down here in the 7s, if I was going to take a chalky piece, like maybe it is Batia, right? They're at -20, you're locking in some sort of placement. You could throw a Chris Kirk into this kind of lineup as well. If I'm playing cash, you can see there's no pivots in this lineup, right? And this could even be for a smaller field GPP. Like if you're playing against like 100 other people, I'd be okay entering a lineup this chalky, right? You're not worried about duplicating, going against 99 other people. You're not really as worried about leverage, right? You're still only trying to beat like 99 other entries. So this type of lineup, right? Smaller field stuff, definitely for cash. You're looking for more of that median performance out there. So that's all I've got for DFS. Not really much more to add on that side. It's a slate where you've got to kind of pick a script, right? You've got to pick your guys that you think are going to hold on to the lead. You've got to try and find some chasers that have that pop performance. And it's always been that way, and it's always going to be that way out there for round 4 Showdown. Now let's hop over to Underdog and find some prop bets. So there's a couple props on here that I haven't entered yet, actually, and may end up doing it here on stream. So we'll circle back to the weather. We'll try and figure out what we're expecting to go on today and talk some stuff on Prize Picks and Underdog. So let me go ahead, go over and share our Prize Picks screen and get after it. So here's the Prize Picks board. It's not nearly as attractive as what we have in Underdog. So I just want to start here for comparison's sake. Over here on Prize Picks, they've got a lot of guys at like 6.5 birdies. Cam Young, I got at 5.5 birdies last night. Aberg was at 5.5 on Underdog. The board over there, like I said, is just much better. So I'm showing you guys this so that you know what to compare to when we're looking at this Underdog board. But look at that. Max Homa was at 67.5. Got guys like Tommy Fleetwood at 68 strokes, 67 for Morikawa. Spieth is at 67.5 on both sites. But if you're going to get a slightly better line, it is always an Underdog. Everything over here on Prize Picks is slightly lower. Your birdies are about 0.5 to even 1 birdie higher than what you have compared to Underdog. So it's a slate to try and find your value on the Underdog side. So if you're going to enter anything on Prize Picks other than a fade, let's say you don't think it plays easy today, which I would disagree with. We'll go back to the weather. It should play really easy this time around. Then you would fade stuff on Prize Picks, right? If you disagreed with that sentiment, you thought it's going to play just like it did for round 3, this would be a slate to do the fades on, whereas over there on the Underdog side, not so much, right? On Underdog, you're trying to find some overs. So over here, we have an over on Keegan Bradley. Birdies are better. We also have an under on Max Homa strokes. I haven't entered this myself, but I'm damn close to doing so. And in fact, on stream, I might get there myself. A couple reasons for it. If we get a scoring average like we saw for the first 2 days, I mean, look at this, right? It was a 4 under par scoring average. Then we had a 5.5 under par scoring average. If we're going to split the middle on them, say maybe it plays like 4.5, 4.75 under par, somebody like a Max Homa that routinely gains about 2.5 strokes to the field with his play, is going to project for well under that. Right now, you probably can't give him the whole 2.5 strokes because of how strong this field is. But even if we're only going to say he gains a stroke to the field, right, that would have him closer to 67, maybe even 66.5 strokes. So on Prize Picks, he's down at 67.5. So you're getting that slight value with the Max Homa. And then with this Keegan Bradley prop, the birdie average for round one was 5.7. I think it was like 5.75 per round. To give you the exact number here. In round two, it was 6.48 per round, right? So again, if we were to split the middle, maybe we give it an average of like 6 for the field today. I think that'd be pretty reasonable. Keegan Bradley, who, let me bring up the PGA site right here. 1 second here, guys. Keegan Bradley made a ton of birdies last year, and I feel like a lot of people don't give him credit for that, and we'll bring it up and show you what I'm talking about. So here's the PGA sites. Let's go over here to scoring. And let's find the birdie average. So birdie average for the year, and then let's find Keegan Bradley. And look at this shit. So Keegan Bradley was like number 28 or something like that. Yeah, number 28 on tour when it came to birdie average, which I didn't mean to click on him there. He's in the range of guys like a Tony Finau, right? So you've got Tony Finau at 26. You've got guys like Terrell Hatton right down here at 31 for the year. Surprisingly, Justin Rose had a really good year for making birdies. But, you know, he's behind the likes of Ricky Fowler. You know, Colin Morikawa, right, made 1% more birdies per round than somebody like Keegan Bradley. So when we look at players like Morikawa, right, who's, again, just a slightly better birdie maker than a Keegan Bradley, he's at 6.5 birdies on this kind of slate. There's going to be some value taken Keegan. And he hasn't had the best golf tournament, right, but he has still covered this line in 2 of his 3 rounds. So to show you what I'm talking about, yesterday he did not get over this number, but for every other round he's played this week, he's been able to. Right. So give you an idea, right? Yesterday, he got the 3 birdies, did not birdie the last par 5, was not able to birdie the easiest hole in the golf course, hole number 14 here. Just a lot of missed opportunities, right? Hole 18 did not get a birdie. All of these kind of holes are holes that he should be able to make a birdie on. This time around, I think he will, right? Round 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 birdies. And round 1, I believe he made 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he's 2 of 3 going for it. Again, he's down to 45th place at this point. You have to think that he's going to have some sort of bounce back round at some point. And even if he doesn't, right, he plays to his field average. I mean, he's done a pretty good job with this line to this point. So I'm going to go ahead, enter this line myself, show you guys me doing that. And after we get off stream here, I'm going to have to post that on Patreon because, yeah, I hadn't entered that until now. So let's go ahead, do that right there. And hopefully you guys can lock that in there. How do I feel about pin locations? So I looked through them last night. And yeah, I do show my picks too. Cool. There they are right there. But yeah, Blake, I looked through them last night. I don't know if we're going to do a full breakdown, but they look slightly harder. So hole number 1, like it's like a front pin over here, but it's a long hole. Hole number 2 is a long par 3, right? You can see they put that in the back. So in general, I would say the pins look a lot tougher than what we had for round 3, but I think it's because of the wind, right? They know it's going to play super easy here for Sunday, so they don't want it to get too out of hand. So that would be my theory with it. Like hole 18 is like a pretty neutral pin. Hole number 15 is another par 5. It's another front pin. So it's like there's a few easy holes. There's a few hard holes that they're going to have to work with. Hole 13 over here is probably the toughest pin of all of them. Back there in the back left. So it's a good mix, I'd say, but it's not changing my process too much, Blake. It's I don't know. It's a little tough there. So let's see. Let's go over here in Underdog, see if we can find anything else. If not, we're going to talk some matchups and some 3 balls and whatnot. So you're going to mostly take unders over here. So if you're going to find a strokes line, who was I looking at before? Sorry, it was Tony Finau, but they bumped him down. So yeah, we probably don't take that now. You could take an over on Fleetwood birdies. I've been considering that one for quite some time. But yeah, outside of that, I like that slip we took a little bit more, right? So let me go ahead, find those lines, show them for you in case you didn't get it in the first time. Where are they at? So it's Keegan Bradley birdies down here. And then it's Max Homa, right? Yeah, Max Homa strokes. That's what I would go with over there on Underdog. If we're going to try and find anything on Prize Picks, I'll at least go through some of the matchups and give you guys an idea of what to work with. So if you're going to play some matchups, I mean, it's always a tough scene. I'm not the big matchup guy, as you guys know out there, but I would try and find guys that aren't playing well going against guys that are playing well. So like, for example, Ludwig Aberg, really struggling this week, right? For full transparency, I think Aberg has a pretty good day today, but he's matched up against Max Homa. He's been playing better. He has a lot more experience around this golf course. Now, if you're going to take a birdie or better matchup, it's this kind of spot. Let's see if we can find another like in-form guy versus a guy out of form. Like this right here, Wyndham Clark, right? This is another matchup where you've got Wyndham Clark, who's had a horrible week, going against Jason Day, who's up there in contention. So I'm not going to play this birdie or better matchup. I refuse to get investment to these kind of props. But if you have to enter anything on Prize Picks right now, it'd probably be something like that, frankly. If you're going to do any fades, I'm not going to join you there. With these scoring additions that we're expecting today, I think fading players just wouldn't go very well. So that's why we're sticking most of our exposure over there in Underdog. That's why I'd recommend taking birdie or better matchups, if anything, if you're playing over there on the Prize Pick side. But let's see, any hanging value. It doesn't look like it, right? Like Benny Ann at 69 is actually probably not the worst under to take, but all the rest of these have been bumped through oblivion. So just stick to the best of points available. Don't force an exposure. That'd be my main recommendation for a slate like this. And just find spots that you think are going to be plus EV. All right, let's finally go through some stuff on Hard Rock bets. So thank God we caught that in time. Didn't get signed out. Let's go through some of these matchups, which yesterday, guys, we cashed 3 out of the 4. So did really well on that side. Just to show you, right, we had the Jordan Spieth one cash. That made me about $100. This Tommy Fleet one cash, right? It was plus 135. That didn't suck. These Steeler bets hit. Well, they're not worried about those. Like those Steeler bets hit. Not worried about those. But like Xander, right? Xander against Cantlay. That was another one we were able to hit. The only one that missed, who was it? Let's find it. There was one that missed. This Tony Finau prop, right? It was this Tony Finau versus Kitayama and Hadwin. Finau had a 5-footer on his last hole to hit for us, to go out there and at least push to get us some profit, and he missed it, of course, in Tony Finau fashion, right? Missing some 5-footers. All right, let's go through some matchup stuff, though. So let's run it back. Let's try and find some more value for today. And I really like these head-to-head matchups where you're not dealing with the 3-ball. Let's see, what's this? Kirk versus Batia. That's probably a little bit of a toss-up. They got my 2 boys against each other, Xander and Spieth. Okay, probably not betting that one, though. Let's see, Shank versus Todd. They've got Shank as the favorite. That's interesting. That's an interesting one to me. Okay, let's throw that one over there. Dave versus Fitzpatrick's pretty even. Cantlay Morikawa is a pretty even matchup. You got Burns versus Cole. Yeah, that's a toss-up too. Hatton versus Sanjay. It's a toss-up. I'd rather have Max here, but he's minus 140, so you don't love that. And then Benny Ann versus Harris English. I guess I would go with English there, right? Because of the course history. But let me double check on some of this value. So kind of like we did yesterday, I like to do my line shopping on Data Golf because they combine all the different boards, right? Kind of show you where you can get the best lines. Let me double check that we're getting the best line on this. So what we want to double check on is that Brendan Todd versus Adam Shank. Let me see if I can find that. Okay, Shank. Okay, so the plus EV side they're saying is Adam Shank with the minus 120. Yeah, I vehemently disagree with that. So I guess I'll stay away from that prop. Let's see. Do they have Brendan Todd at plus 100 on there? They do. And they say it's negative EV. Yeah. So I'll stay away from that. And then the other prop you're looking at was Harris English versus Benny Ann. So let me see if I can find him on here. Good old Harry English versus Benny Ann. There he is. And yeah, they don't have it as a massive lean either way. In fact, Harris English should be like plus 110, if anything. So yeah, probably staying away from some of those head-to-head matchups. I was hoping we'd find some value right there, but let's look at the 3 balls now. Might be able to find something on that side. So in terms of our 3 balls, you got English versus Ann and Spieth. Spieth should be the favorite, but he's plus 125, so I'm not sure if I love that. You've got Aberg, Cam Davis, and Rose there. Aberg should be the favorite, but once again, plus 130 odds is probably not enough. Even money I'll never take for a 3-ball. There's no way. The only chance I would consider is with Scotty Scheffler, but he's got a pretty good group, so we'll stay away from there too. Don't love that one. Not betting that group. They're all dog shit. I'm not putting my hard-earned money on Hardy, Henley, or Putnam. That's just not happening. This one, you've got more common Cantlay as co-favorites. That's a tough group. Yeah, these 3 balls today, at least to me, they're not sticking out like they did yesterday. There were quite a few yesterday that made some sense. Not so much this time around. All right, let's keep going through them, though. You never know. Yeah, not my favorite there. Sanjay, Rogers, Hovland. Honestly, this Sanjay intrigues me. Let me keep Sanjay in there. I don't hate that one, actually. Clark, McCarthy, Taylor. Yeah, no thank you. No thank you. Fleetwood as a favorite. Yeah, no thanks. Actually, maybe you would take Cam Young if anything. So let me throw that in there. Yeah, no thank you on that group. No thank you. And then last one is this Glover, Svenny, and Hadwin. Maybe Svenny, if anything. So I'm going to do some line shopping on these now. So let me do that again over here in Data Golf. This is, I believe, behind their paywall. So I just don't want to show anything, right, that you guys haven't paid for. That's not right. Let me double check on some of these lines. So the Svenny prop, we're not getting a good line with plus 180. So I'll probably avoid that. Then we got the Sanjay and this Cam Young prop. So let me double check on those. Sanjay and Cam Young, where you at? Sanjay is also a negative EV. Okay, that's annoying. He's plus 200 on some sites. So yeah, we'll definitely avoid that. And then Cam Young looks like it might be plus EV. So what do we get him at on Hard Rock Bet? Plus 165. Yeah, we're taking that. Okay. So just to give you guys an idea, that Cam Young prop that we're about to take is at like plus 150 on some sites. It's at plus 160 on some. The best line available across the industry is the one that we're getting. They're at plus 165. So yeah, not going to be a ton of 3 balls for today, right? I wish we had more to get to, but this is going to be the main one that we bet. So it's $58 I'm going to put on it. I'm just going to put this change on it too. I'm a little bit OCD about the amount I put on stuff, right? I'd rather have exactly 4K in my account right there. So let's go ahead, throw Cam Young in there. Okay, so that'll be the one matchup bet that we're going with for this. It'll be Cam Young at plus 165. In terms of my sweats for today, I've got a top 10 on Xander that I'm sweating. That one would be nice to hit. This top 5 on Ji Young Kim. Tom Kim is absolutely dead. I already know that. This outright on Terrell Hatton's dead at plus 300 or plus 3,000. But we got Jordan Spieth that we're sweating, right? We got him at 22 to 1, 22.5 to 1, I should say, for $2,000 payout. That wouldn't suck. And we also got the Xander Schauffele down here, right? It would be $100 into $1,700. We got him at 1,600. And now if I show you the odds, right? Xander's plus 475. And now Jordan Spieth is plus 600. So obviously still a long way to go, right? There's still 6 to 1 to win, 5 to 1 over there for Xander Schauffele. But if either of those could come through here on Sunday, your boy would be pretty happy to start here in 2024. So that's all we've got here for the live stream, guys. I've got a lot of NFL stuff to do, so I'm going to go ahead and hop on out of here. But best of luck with all of your lineups, any prop slips, any matchup bets that you're going with here for Sunday. And let's go out there and have ourselves a sleep.